She stands in the harbor, torch raised, face calm. You've seen her 1,000 times, on postcards, in movies, stamped on coins. You already know what she means. Freedom, America, welcome. But what if nearly everything you associate with that statue was added later, by people she was never built for reasons that had nothing to do with what she was originally designed to say? The Statue of Liberty was not built as a symbol of immigration. She wasn't even built primarily as a gift to America. She was built as a political message aimed at France. And the story of how she ended up meaning what she means today, who paid for her, who almost didn't, and how her symbolism was rewritten by people who were never part of the plan, is a story that changes how you see her entirely. The statue was conceived in 1865 at a dinner party in France by a man named Édouard de Laboulaye. He was a legal scholar, a political thinker, and an admirer of the American experiment. But Laboulaye wasn't celebrating America. He was trying to send a message to France. At that moment, France was living under the increasingly authoritarian rule of Napoleon III. Free speech was restricted. Political opposition was dangerous. The press was muzzled. Laboulaye couldn't openly call for a French republic, so he pointed across the ocean instead. The statue was a mirror disguised as a gift. By praising American liberty, Laboulaye was really saying, "Look what a republic can become. Look what we are not." The statue was political pressure dressed in copper and robes, not simply a generous gesture between allies, but an argument aimed at French citizens, wrapped in the image of a woman holding fire. The sculptor, Frédéric Auguste Bartholdi, understood the assignment. He had ambition, vision, and a deep obsession with scale. But Bartholdi didn't design the statue from nothing. He had already been developing a concept, a colossal robed woman holding a torch, intended for the entrance of the Suez Canal in Egypt. That project fell through, so the figure migrated. The torch stayed, the posture shifted, the meaning was rewritten. Scholars still debate how directly the Egyptian design influenced the final statue, but the lineage is there. What most people see as an icon born from pure idealism had roots in a recycled proposal for a completely different continent, repurposed with a new narrative. And that's not cynical. That's how symbols get built. They don't arrive pure. They're revised, redirected, funded, and then the story gets cleaned up afterward. Speaking of funding, this is where the myth cracks open the widest. France agreed to pay for the statue. America agreed to pay for the pedestal. The French side struggled, but managed. The American side nearly collapsed entirely. Congress refused to fund it. Wealthy Americans largely ignored it. This thing we now treat as sacred national identity was met with widespread indifference. Several cities offered to take it if New York didn't want it. Baltimore, Boston, Philadelphia, they all raised their hands. New York almost lost the Statue of Liberty because New York didn't care enough to pay for the concrete beneath her feet. What saved it was a newspaper publisher named Joseph Pulitzer. And his motives weren't purely patriotic. Pulitzer launched a fundraising campaign in his paper, The New York World, shaming the rich for their silence and calling on ordinary citizens to donate whatever they could. Pennies, nickels, single-dollar bills. The campaign worked. Over 120,000 people contributed, most giving less than $1. It was one of the earliest examples of crowdfunding in American history. But Pulitzer wasn't just saving a monument. He was selling newspapers. Every day the campaign ran, circulation climbed. He turned national embarrassment into a business opportunity. The pedestal got funded. The paper got famous. The crowd felt noble. The motives were mixed, and the statue got to stand. Now here's a layer that changes how you look at her. When the statue was unveiled in 1886, the ceremony was almost entirely a celebration of Franco-American relations and commercial ambition. The speeches weren't about immigration. The huddled masses weren't mentioned. There was no poem read aloud. Not yet. The poem, the one most people now believe defines the statue, was written 3 years before the unveiling by a woman named Emma Lazarus. She wrote it for a fundraising auction. It raised some money. Then it faded from public memory. For nearly 2 decades, almost nobody associated those words with the statue at all. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. That line wasn't placed on a bronze plaque inside the pedestal until 1903. And even then, it was a quiet addition, not a national event. The statue had been standing for 17 years without that meaning attached to it. The idea that she was a beacon for immigrants, that came later. It was layered onto her by experience, not built into her by design. And this is where the real power of the statue lives. Not in what she was designed to say, but in how her meaning was slowly rewritten by the people who needed her most. Between 1892 and 1954, over 12 million immigrants entered the United States through Ellis Island, which sits in her shadow. For those people, she was the first monumental thing they saw after weeks crossing the Atlantic in the lowest decks of steamships. They didn't know about Laboulaye. They didn't know about Bartholdi's earlier Egyptian sketches. They didn't know Congress had refused to pay. They looked up and saw a woman holding light above the water, and they decided she meant welcome. That meaning wasn't given. It was taken, and it stuck, so deeply that it eventually became the dominant reading, overwriting much of the original intent. This is what most people miss about national symbols. They don't hold one fixed truth. They hold whichever truth becomes most necessary. The Statue of Liberty is not a statement. It's a surface, and every generation projects onto it whatever they most desperately want to believe about themselves. During World War I, she was used to sell war bonds. During the Cold War, she became a weapon against Soviet propaganda, proof that the free world had a face. During civil rights struggles, Black Americans pointed to her and asked why her promise didn't extend to them. She was used to justify immigration and used to restrict it. Claimed by the left, claimed by the right, printed on protest signs and government pamphlets in the same decade. She doesn't resolve those contradictions. She absorbs them. And physically, she's more fragile than she looks. Her copper skin is only about 2 millimeters thick, roughly the depth of 2 pennies stacked together. What holds her upright is an internal iron framework, originally engineered by Gustave Eiffel before he built his tower. Over a century of salt air and weather corroded the contact points between the copper and iron, threatening structural failure. By the 1980s, she needed a massive restoration just to keep standing. The symbol of permanence was quietly falling apart. That restoration was funded, once again, not by the government alone, but by a public campaign, this time organized by Lee Iacocca, the CEO of Chrysler, and backed by corporate sponsorship. The Statue of Liberty was saved, in part, by a car company's marketing budget. The pattern held. Every time she nearly fails, someone finds a reason, not always a noble one, to keep her upright. And maybe that's the most honest thing about her. She was imagined as a critique of French authoritarianism, shaped by a sculptor recycling an older vision, barely funded, nearly homeless, given a meaning she wasn't built to carry, physically fragile behind a monumental face, restored by commerce, claimed by everyone, owned by no one's single narrative. She's not a symbol of what America is. She's a symbol of what America keeps arguing about. Who belongs, what freedom means, and who gets to define it. The torch doesn't settle anything. It just stays lit long enough for the next generation to fight beneath it. That's not a flaw in the monument. That might be the most American thing about it. A meaning that was never finished. A promise that was never signed. And a woman made of copper and iron, 2 millimeters thin, standing in the water, holding fire, waiting for someone to decide what she means today.